It's 2025, and the war between Russia and Ukraine continues to dominate global headlines. While the world yearns for peace, there's one question few dare to ask. Does the United States truly want this war to end? Let's explore the hidden layers of strategy, economy, and geopolitics to uncover why prolonging this conflict might serve U.S. interests. Geopolitical influence, the U.S. and NATO's revival. The Russia-Ukraine war has fundamentally reshaped the balance of power in Europe. Before the war, NATO faced criticism for being outdated, with some even questioning its relevance. But today, it's stronger than ever, and the United States is the backbone of this newfound strength. The war has galvanized NATO members to act with unity and urgency. Defense budgets are surging across Europe, with countries like Germany and Poland investing billions in modernizing their militaries. Poland, for instance, has doubled its defense spending, acquiring U.S.-made tanks and fighter jets. And Finland and Sweden have joined NATO, bringing the alliance to Russia's doorstep, a direct consequence of Moscow's aggression. These two nations bring critical advantages to NATO. Finland, with its 830-mile border with Russia, significantly expands NATO's strategic reach, while Sweden's advanced air force and naval capabilities enhance security in the Baltic Sea. For the U.S., this is a strategic masterstroke. It cements American influence in northern and eastern Europe while putting additional pressure on Russia's western flank. But it's not just about military might. The U.S. has emerged as the undisputed leader of this revitalized NATO. Washington spearheaded sanctions against Russia, coordinated military aid for Ukraine, and positioned itself as the ultimate guarantor of European security. High-profile visits by U.S. leaders to Kyiv and NATO capitals send a clear message: America is here to lead. By continuing the war, the U.S. ensures its indispensable role in Europe, keeping allies firmly aligned with its global vision. This dependency is visible in military operations. Key NATO deployments rely on U.S. command, logistics, and intelligence. Advanced U.S. systems like the HIMARS rocket systems and F-35 fighter jets have become the backbone of European defense strategies, making it clear that NATO's strength is, in many ways, America's strength. And as long as the war continues, this dependency deepens. The U.S. remains the key player in European security, ensuring its influence in every major decision, from energy policy to military strategy. In short, the war has breathed new life into NATO, and the U.S. is the architect of this resurgence. For Washington, this isn't just about Ukraine. It's about solidifying its leadership in a changing world. Economic benefits, energy, and arms driving U.S. gains. The Russia-Ukraine war has reshaped global energy markets, and America has come out on top. Europe, once heavily dependent on Russian gas, has made a historic pivot. Where did it turn for help? The United States. The war forced Europe to sever ties with Russia's energy industry, opening the door for American LNG exports. From 2021 to 2025, U.S. LNG shipments to Europe have skyrocketed, with countries like Germany, France, and Italy relying on American energy to heat their homes and power their industries. American energy companies are now reaping massive profits, fueled by record demand and higher global prices. For Europe, these imports ensure energy security. For the U.S., they solidify economic ties with key allies while reducing Russian leverage over the continent. But it's not just energy that's fueling the American economy, it's also weapons. The war has driven unprecedented demand for U.S. military equipment. Since 2021, U.S. defense companies like Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, and Boeing have seen an explosion in contracts. From HIMARS rocket systems to Javelin anti-tank missiles, American weapons are proving their effectiveness on the battlefield and gaining global attention. Ukraine isn't the only buyer. NATO allies, worried about Russian aggression, are modernizing their militaries. Poland, for example, has signed multi-billion-dollar deals to acquire U.S. tanks, helicopters, and fighter jets. Other countries like Estonia and Romania are following suit, ensuring a steady stream of revenue for American defense contractors. The combination of energy and arms has solidified America's economic leadership. By maintaining the conflict, the U.S. ensures a constant demand for its energy supplies and military technology. Every tanker of LNG and every shipment of weapons reinforces the U.S. position as an indispensable partner for Europe. And it's not just about profits. These economic ties give the U.S. significant leverage in diplomatic negotiations. When European nations rely on American energy to keep their economies running and U.S. weapons to defend their borders, it strengthens Washington's hand in shaping the policies of its allies. Through energy and arms, the U.S. isn't just profiting from the war. It's embedding itself deeper into the global economic and security landscape. As long as the conflict persists, so does America's strategic advantage. Battlefield testing, the future of warfare in Ukraine. The war in Ukraine is more than just a geopolitical conflict. It's a proving ground for the future of warfare. For the United States, this conflict offers a unique opportunity, testing advanced military technologies in a real-world battlefield. Take unmanned systems, for example. Drones, like the U.S.-made Switchblade loitering munitions, have shown their value in precision strikes and reconnaissance missions. These systems aren't just tools for Ukraine. They're shaping U.S. military doctrine, demonstrating how drones can neutralize conventional forces at a fraction of the cost. The lessons learned here go straight into the design and deployment of the next generation of U.S. military hardware. The battlefield in Ukraine is effectively a live laboratory for refining these technologies. The war also highlights the increasing importance of cyber warfare. Ukraine has faced relentless cyber attacks from Russian operatives, targeting its energy grid and communications. With U.S. support, Ukraine has developed robust counter-cyber capabilities, demonstrating how nations can defend against and even retaliate in cyberspace. These digital skirmishes are teaching the U.S. valuable lessons about cyber defense and offense in a real conflict, knowledge that will shape future strategies in an era of hybrid warfare. Then there's artillery. The deployment of HIMARS rocket systems has transformed the battlefield. By allowing Ukraine to strike high-value targets deep behind enemy lines, HIMARS has showcased the power of precision-guided munitions. For the Pentagon, this is validation of decades of investment in long-range, high-accuracy weaponry. The U.S. is learning how to adapt its systems to real-world combat scenarios, how to maximize effectiveness, minimize vulnerabilities, and outpace adversaries like Russia. But it's not just about weapons, it's about data. Every strike, every maneuver, every response generates invaluable intelligence. U.S. military experts are closely analyzing this data, identifying strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities for innovation. This data-driven approach ensures that American forces stay one step ahead in future conflicts. Beyond the battlefield, the war is pushing the boundaries of military innovation. From AI-assisted targeting systems to autonomous vehicles, technologies tested in Ukraine are paving the way for an entirely new era of warfare. For the U.S., the war in Ukraine is more than a fight for freedom. It's a chance to prepare for the wars of tomorrow. By learning, adapting, and innovating, the U.S. is securing its position as the world's most advanced and effective military power. Diplomatic front, isolating adversaries. On the diplomatic front, the war in Ukraine has isolated Russia and strained its alliances. The United States, leading a coalition of nations, has imposed a series of sanctions that have pushed Russia into economic and political isolation. The once resilient Russian economy is reeling under these measures. Trade restrictions, frozen assets, and a loss of foreign investment have left its markets struggling to recover. Everyday Russians feel the pressure as inflation rises and opportunities dwindle. Even China, Russia's most significant partner, is treading carefully. While it continues to support Russia diplomatically, China is mindful of its global economic interests, particularly its trade relations with the United States and Europe. Beijing's calculated approach demonstrates the strain Russia's actions are placing on its closest alliances. For the U.S., this prolonged conflict offers a strategic advantage. It weakens two of America's most prominent adversaries, Russia and, indirectly, China, without requiring direct U.S. involvement on the battlefield. By fostering international cooperation and maintaining its leadership, the United States continues to shape the global order. The war in Ukraine is not just a regional battle. It's a geopolitical chessboard where the United States is outmaneuvering its rivals, ensuring their weaknesses grow while its own influence remains steadfast. Political leverage, strengthening U.S. influence over allies. European nations, heavily reliant on U.S. support for their security, now align more closely than ever with American policies. The war has reshaped energy policies across Europe. Countries once dependent on Russian gas, like Germany and Italy, have turned to U.S.-supplied liquefied natural gas. This shift not only reduces Europe's reliance on Russia, but also strengthens American influence in energy markets worldwide. Global trade is another domain where the U.S. has capitalized on the conflict. American-led sanctions against Russia have forced European companies to diversify their supply chains, often turning to U.S. businesses for alternatives. This economic dependency enhances America's sway over European markets and decision-making processes. Even domestic politics in Europe have been affected. Countries like Poland and the Baltic states are increasing their defense budgets, often purchasing U.S. weapons and equipment. These decisions, encouraged by the conflict, further bind European military policies to American strategy. The reliance on American military aid and leadership has cemented the U.S. as the key decision-maker in critical geopolitical and economic matters. By leveraging this influence, the U.S. continues to steer the global order, ensuring its strategic objectives are met while maintaining a dominant position on the world stage. Cybersecurity and tech diplomacy, strengthening U.S. leadership. The U.S. is also leading in cybersecurity and tech diplomacy. From defending against Russian cyber attacks to deploying tools like SpaceX's Starlink for Ukraine, America's tech sector is reaping both financial and strategic rewards. Cybersecurity has become a battlefield of its own, and the U.S. is at the forefront. Russian cyber attacks on critical infrastructure have exposed vulnerabilities, pushing European nations to seek American expertise in cybersecurity. Companies like Microsoft and Google have bolstered their operations, working closely with U.S. agencies to protect critical systems. Meanwhile, SpaceX's Starlink has provided critical communications for Ukraine, enabling them to maintain operational command and control in contested regions. This not only demonstrates U.S. technological superiority, but also enhances American influence in global tech diplomacy. Through these efforts, the U.S. strengthens its leadership in the digital age. The war has positioned America as a vital player in both cybersecurity and advanced technology, granting it immense geopolitical leverage. So, why might the U.S. not want to stop this war in 2025? Because every day the war continues, it reshapes the global order in America's favor, economically, militarily, and diplomatically. Economically, the war weakens America's adversaries, especially Russia and China, while bolstering U.S. dominance. Sanctions on Russia have driven global companies away from relying on Russian resources, forcing them to seek alternatives in U.S.-led markets. Europe's shift toward American energy supplies, particularly LNG, strengthens U.S. influence in global energy markets. Militarily, the U.S. has positioned itself as the dominant force in Europe. NATO's expansion, increased defense spending by European allies, and a greater reliance on U.S. military aid ensure that American military presence remains stronger than ever. This increases America's control over regional security and deterrence against adversaries like Russia and China. Diplomatically, the U.S. has emerged as the key player in shaping international policies. Through the war, the U.S. has fostered greater political alignment with Europe, leading to tighter cooperation on trade, energy, and military matters. The U.S. now holds more influence over European nations, solidifying its leadership role in global affairs. Every day the war continues, it reinforces U.S. dominance. Stopping this conflict would disrupt the order that America has carefully crafted: economic strength, military influence, and diplomatic sway. For the U.S., the war serves as a tool to maintain and expand its global power. Of course, this comes at a cost: human suffering, instability, and the risk of escalation. But in the cold calculus of geopolitics, the U.S. may see these as acceptable risks in pursuit of its long-term strategic goals. What's the price of peace? And who pays it? This is not just a story of war. It's a story of power, influence, and strategy. What do you think? Should the U.S. push harder for peace or stay the course? Let us know in the comments.